I may or may not have been noticing a bit of a trend that a lot of you are really wanting me to review these blue leaning green colors, both from the Benjamin Moore side and the Sherwin Williams side, regardless of company, whether it's Benjamin Moore, Sherwin Williams, Behr Paint, Faro and Ball occasionally. Today is no different with Jasper Stone from Sherwin Williams. And what's great about this color is it has a lovely richness to it. It sort of sits in that low mid-tone range, so not necessarily a color for every room in your home, but it could be perfect for some of the rooms in your home. We're gonna talk all about this color, go into some detail. I'll give you my overarching thoughts on it. And most importantly, I got a color palette at the end, color pairings for your walls and your trim, so you're fully equipped. That's what I do. I give you the equipment, and then you gotta make the actual decisions. This color is sort of bluey greeny in essence, and sometimes it's described as being a blue with a green undertone, but Sherwin Williams specifically describes it as green with a blue-gray undertone. And I think the gray undertone aspect just means there's some gray in it, and this prevents it from feeling overly vibrant and saturated. It has a sort of soft edge to it, not enough for me to call it a neutral color, at least in the widely accepted sense of the word, but it can coexist wonderfully with neutral colors. So if you are someone that has a bunch of grays and beiges in your home, don't be afraid to implement something like Jasper Stone to spruce it up. Maybe in a bedroom, a bathroom, dining room even. Essentially, the more secondary spaces of your home, that's where I really see a color like this working very well. So like I said, it does have a dark mid-tone level of depth. And we know this because we can check out the LRV, the light reflectance value. It's 32 in this case, and that essentially means this color is reflecting 32% of the light that hits it. So if you got big old windows in whatever room you're using it in, that light hits it and only about a third of it comes back. So it's not going to feel like the brightest color on the planet, but that's not really what you're going for if you're going for this color. 32 out of 100 sounds like a pretty dark color, but there are much other darker alternatives. So you don't need to worry about this feeling like pitch black, like these panels over here. There is some life to it. In a very well illuminated space, it will seem decently bright. It really is going to depend on your lighting conditions and all that, but I have seen this work in a darker bedroom as well, and it suited that space wonderfully. So just test your colors out, okay? How many times do I gotta tell you? All right, now it's color palette time. Here is an entire color scheme that I've put together for you.
I have just met you, and I love you.
A general guideline, a general starting point for you to sort of build your ideal palette based around Jasper Stone. So the first color is one that we recently talked about in an episode of Color Quickie called Keeling Beige. And this one I would describe more as a neutral color, but it's not your traditional ambiguous gray beige color. This one is very beige forward. It almost has a bronzy aspect to it, like a kind of an orange undertone. It can sometimes look a tad peachy in certain circumstances, but that's sort of the reason I went with it. This is a pairing that will complement Jasper Stone. The warmth is really going to play off the coolness. They'll have this wonderful back and forth. And whenever you do have these complementary pairings in the same space, in the same room specifically, just be mindful that they will have a very dynamic, charged back and forth. So maybe you don't want to even the playing field with 50% of one and 50% of the other. Maybe have one be the more predominant of the two, just so you have a nice sense of visual balance. It's not going to be too taxing on the eyes. Or if you are looking for that dynamism, then okay, go for that 50-50 split and just have this wonderful wow factor kind of statement. The more simple approach, however, would be Keeling Beige becomes the main color, the hallway color, let's say, and then Jasper Stone becomes that offshoot color in different rooms. But you don't have to just go with Jasper Stone. You can also add another color like Felted Wool. And this color sort of accomplishes a few things. One, you're introducing another one of those darker mid-tone colors because it has a 28 LRV, even a bit darker than Jasper Stone, although you would describe this more as a true neutral color, even though it is darker. That's because it feels to me a very subtle green taupe, where you have a little bit of green, some brown, and some gray all mixed into one. So it will play into the cool aspect of Jasper Stone, and you still have that brown earthiness that really plays off of Keeling Beige. So it's kind of a connective color between those two, yet it still sits in that dark area. Lovely way of describing it is a toasty gray-green. Thanks, Sherwin Williams. Took that from their website. I would almost describe felted wool as a more passive version of Jasper Stone in a way, simply because it is a little more neutral, all things considered. That doesn't mean it makes it much easier to use. Still gotta test it out, please. As for the third color pairing, this is sort of the accent choice of the bunch. What better partner for Jasper Stone than just straight up Jasper? Yeah, there's a color called Jasper, and I'm choosing it as my accent color here, even though you could argue Jasper Stone is kind of like a mid-tone accent. But Jasper has a ton of depth. It's the darkest color by far in this video. It's a wonderfully dark, rich, deep evergreen that is almost comparable to black in terms of how dark it is. And I just love how it feels next to all these colors. It'll really pop off of Keeling Beige, but then once you pair it with felted wool, and Jasper Stone especially, it becomes a little more familiar. They all have that green characteristic that carries through really nicely. Now you might have noticed that a lot of these colors are at least mid-tone, maybe darker. Let's go for some light colors, namely on your trim. So your baseboards, your doors, and your frames. I got two options for you, an off-white option, and then another option as an alternative. For a clean white, I would recommend extra white on your trim and your baseboards, mainly because it has a crisp quality to it. It's very much going to pop off of any of the colors you use, even against Keeling Beige, which is one of the lighter colors in this palette. And then for an alternative to extra white, if you don't necessarily want bright, stark white trim, you can go for restful white, which is only 5 points darker technically, but it gives you a warmer alternative. It's sort of a light creamy beige. It has a little bit of golden yellow as an undertone. And the reason I wanted to include this as opposed to another dark color is because you already have a lot of dark colors in the palette. So you can double restful white as a lighter wall color as well if you wanted something that was really bright and vibrant and airy, and maybe Keeling Beige wasn't light enough. So this is sort of a 2-in-1 for you, a little bonus. Here's the palette all together. Let me know what you think. We got double Jaspers in this one, so fun. And we got another palette right here, color quickie, color review, and a color scheme just for you.